I'm Josh Kelly, welterweight, currently 6-0, fighting for the Commonwealth title. Follow Sport Icons.
So check out my previous video for the official announcement of Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Povetkin. Click that thumbs up and subscribe, all that kind of usual stuff. So September 22nd, Joshua will defend his IBO, IBF, Super WBA and WBO World Unified Heavyweight titles against Sasha Povetkin. Now, Anthony Joshua has given a very, very brief statement on his upcoming fight with Alexander Povetkin, and this is what Anthony Joshua had to say. Povetkin is a serious challenge that I will prepare fully for. He has serious pedigree and only a fool would underestimate what he brings to the table. Anthony Joshua's statement. So, first of all, I'm glad that he said this because I know I shouldn't, but there was part of me that was a little bit worried that he was overlooking Povetkin, okay? Now, we knew this fight was coming up. We knew this weeks ago, that this fight was going to be coming up. The fight was signed, or at least the fighters were signed up to officially commit to each other to satisfy the WBA within that 24-hour deadline. We know that happened, but of course, with all the background antics of the sponsors and everything else going on, it's now officially announced. So, as I said, I was a little bit nervous that he was going to be overlooking Povetkin because he's booked April the 13th, Wembley Stadium as well. And of course, talking about who he's going to be fighting next, potentially either Wilder or Dillian Whyte. And that's fine, and it's great for the likes of me and you to talk about that kind of thing. But in reality, he shouldn't be overlooking Alexander Povetkin at all. As I said in the previous video there, that just because Anthony Joshua beat Vladimir Klitschko and Vladimir Klitschko beat Alexander Povetkin is not a cheat code. This isn't Shang Tsung. This isn't Mortal Kombat where he takes the souls of all the previous victims. Okay, that's not how it works at all. History will show you that. So it's a very, very tough fight. As I said before, that Povetkin is a shorter guy. He's only, 6'2", I believe he is. And Joshua doesn't like these kind of guys. Look at his fight with Takam. Look at his fight with Parker, who's actually a little bit taller than Povetkin. Look at his fight with Dillian Whyte, again, who's a little bit taller than Povetkin. He doesn't like these guys. He's been handling them no problem, and he's got the win, of course. But they haven't been pretty. They haven't been devastating knockouts. But if you look at him taking on Charles Martin when he won the IBF title in only his 16th fight, he blitzed him. Why? Because he's tall. Taller guys are easier for him to hit. Dominic Brazil in his first defence in his 17th fight, who looks like Brazil against Wilder should be announced real soon, you would imagine. Again, he dominated him for 7 rounds before ultimately dropping him and stopping him. And again, he had glandular fever when he did that. So, had the fight happened with Wilder, for me, he would have walked right the way through Wilder, easier to hit and cracked him fully on the whiskers. With Povetkin and shorter guys, they tend to tuck down, come in on his chest. And while Joshua is pretty good at keeping them at range at times, he doesn't find it too comfortable. You can see he's not quite comfortable with it. So Povetkin, very, very skilled. Very, very skilled. Of course, he's getting on a bit now as well, so he is starting to deteriorate, or at least I hope he is. He hasn't looked that good in his last couple of fights against Christian Hammer and David Price. He hasn't looked brilliant. He looked a little bit vulnerable at times. So we'll really have to wait and see what kind of Povetkin's going to turn up. As I said, he's not getting any younger. I think he's, 38 years old. So he's actually younger than Luis Ortiz, who people have been saying that Luis Ortiz is actually 48 years old. They have confirmation of this. I don't know about that. But we do know that Povetkin, he beat Luis Ortiz in the amateurs. And Povetkin, in my opinion, has the best resume of all the heavyweights right now. For if you look down his resume with all the top names that he's been in with, it far exceeds any other heavyweight right now. And yes, people will say, but Joshua beat Klitschko and Klitschko beat Povetkin, so therefore Joshua has a better resume. Well, that one win doesn't eclipse all others. Don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic win. Of course it is, and it's a legacy fight, no doubt. But Povetkin is dangerous, man. He's proper dangerous. Against Price, you could probably argue that he came over and overlooked Price. And you may well be right on that one, which is why maybe he didn't look too good. But the thing is, with Joshua, he needs to focus fully on Povetkin. Don't look about what's next. Don't think you're going to go in there and blast him out within 1 or 2 rounds. If he does, excellent. There'll be nobody more happy than what I would be. But expect a long, hard fight. Expect Povetkin to maybe nick a few rounds. Don't be surprised if Joshua actually gets dropped in this fight. It's a dangerous, dangerous fight. Don't believe all the Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua haters who say that, this is an easy fight, this is a bum, and he tried to avoid Wilder to take this. No. Okay, just remember, Wilder had first refusal. He had the contract that he agreed to, but he refused to sign it. Remember that bit if you remember nothing else. So, again, speaking of Wilder, he avoided Alexander Povetkin. He had the opportunity to fight Povetkin when Povetkin was his mandatory. He did fail the PED test, but he was within the legal limit, which meant that fight should have went ahead. But Deontay Wilder ran away and the WBC protected him. And that's a fact, hence the reason why Povetkin has now countersued and won. Of course, there were some kind of issues with contamination of the testing labs as well. I'm not too sure exactly what that was. Anyway, all that aside, this fight is dangerous. It's a very, very good, dangerous fight. And should Anthony Joshua win this one, it's one hell of a name on the resume. I mean, already, I've said it before, look at the WBC rankings. Even if you just look at that, number 1, Dillian Whyte, Joshua has beaten. Number 2, Dominic Breazeale, Joshua has beaten. Number 3, Alexander Povetkin, who hopefully he will then have beaten. So that's number 1, 2, and 3 that he's beaten. In addition to Joseph Parker, who is number 6 on the WBC, I believe, because Tony Bellew is number 4 for some reason. I don't quite get that. But anyway, and Charles Martin's like number 7, and Carlos Takam is in the top 15 somewhere as well, and potentially higher if he gets past Derek Chisora on July 28th. So this is one hell of a stellar resume. At only 22 fights, again, I'm starting to look like I'm overlooking Povetkin. Not at all. I do believe that Joshua, if he's fully focused and fully engaged in this one, then he's going to beat Povetkin. But I'm expecting a hard fight. Maybe beat Povetkin on points. Maybe. Because there's nothing to suggest that Povetkin can be knocked out. He can be hurt and he can be dropped. We know that. But can he actually be stopped? Well, it's not that important. The only thing that's important is getting the win. If he stops him, great. If it's points, great. Doesn't matter. Get the win. That's all we care about. So drop your thoughts below. I mean, what do you think about Joshua against Povetkin? Do you feel like maybe it's like a little bit of a lesser fight because we all thought that the unification undisputed fight was going to happen, and that ultimately didn't? So as this is the backup fight, do you feel that this is not as exciting as maybe what it should be? I mean, for me, I can understand if anybody does, but ultimately, if you was to take that fight out of it anyway, Alexander Povetkin, wouldn't you all love to see that fight? I certainly would. And I'm very, very happy that it's on, no doubt about it. And I'm going to be worried for him. I will be worried for him, but at the same time, confident. I am confident that he's going to beat Povetkin. I think that he's going to use his size. I don't think he'll go in there and adopt the Vladimir Klitschko tactics where he leaned all over Povetkin and he hit him with the wrists and elbows and leaned on his back and threw him to the ground like a rag doll and got away with it. Joshua shouldn't try those tactics. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you get in close, obviously try and use a little bit of your weight, but don't get yourself a point docked or disqualified. Okay, just to tire out Povetkin, because as I said, he's not getting any younger. He's 38 years old. He's born in 1979, I think it was, something like that. So he's a 70s child. So it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be an exciting fight, and one hell of a paycheck for Anthony Joshua, because don't forget he's getting a massive, massive slice of this one because it's a mandatory fight. The mandatories don't get that good a price. I think that for the WBA, I believe it's about 30%, something like that. So Joshua will not only get 70% of everything, but also a great chunk of the sponsors and the pay-per-view and all this kind of thing as well. But don't forget, Alexander Povetkin is the #1 star in Russia. Look at the size of that damn country. It dwarfs any other country on the planet. It is a massive, massive country. Hence the reason why Ryabinski is so loaded and can put on these massive events for Povetkin and pay him very, very well. And of course, don't forget, Povetkin's very popular over there in Germany as well. So I would fully expect in Russia that fight to be pay-per-view, and possibly in Germany as well, and of course the UK. In America, it will be shown on DAZN. I'm pretty confident about that. I haven't heard anything officially, but I'm pretty confident that that is what's going to be happening tomorrow. So fully expect that announcement. So big, big bucks. This is probably going to be Joshua's highest ever payday. he's probably going to get on around about 23-24 million pounds for this fight. I can pretty much guarantee it. Anyway, drop your thoughts below about Anthony Joshua's statement. Is it pleasing that he's saying the right things, like he's not looking past Povetkin? Do you believe that potentially he is? Anyway, drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all on the next video.